Hey y'all.
Hey y'all.
Welcome back.
Yes.
I'm so excited. But yes, I'm Moriah.
And I'm Ratidzo.
And you're listening to
Hella Foreign,
the podcast, where you get to hear a different perspective.
Yes. Happy Monday, everyone.
Yes, happy Monday.
And happy Saturday to you, sis.
Thank you. In real time, it is Saturday.
Yes.
So beautiful outside, hella hot. But yes, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a short week, because of the holiday on Monday, which is always great. So I'm glad it's the weekend again.
Yes, samesies. But yes, I am excited about this conversation. Today,
been a long time coming.
Yes, it's been a long time coming. But today we're actually going to be talking about African Americans and Africans and this like hidden feud that's been around in the communities.
Stigma.
The stigma that's going on, and some people have no idea what we're talking about. And some do. So I think this would be a fun little topic just to break down some of the different perspectives on each spectrum of the argument.
Yeah.
So, yes, we are just going to jump right in and get started. We're going to start off as to the end goal of the conversation. Why are we talking about this? Why is this relevant?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, we're all black. You know what I mean? Whether you're African, whether you're African American, whether you're British, whatever blackness you are, we're still black at the end of the day. And it's painful to see that there's not that sort of unity between the two sides. And we have to remember that at the end of the day, we have to work together to build a stronger community and a huge sense of unity because of that. Because I feel like from the outside of the community, and you probably agree too, is that everybody sees us as all black,
Right.
The color of our skin, that is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so whether you're from Africa, whether you're from here, you're still black at the end of the day. And especially in America, you're most likely going to be treated exactly the same way by society.
In some environments.
We'll
get deeper.
Yes.
Yeah, into that.
Yes.
For sure. And yeah, I think it's just interesting because I was just telling Ratidzo the other day that I had like a Lyft ride from the driver who happened to be from Senegal.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so we were just having, just a brief little conversation like, oh, what you up to? Whoop de whoop whoop.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I found out he was from Senegal, I was like, oh, so do you plan on staying here? Do you enjoy it? And he immediately was like, nah, I've been here too long. I'm ready to go. I'm just saving up a little more monies to bring it back home. But he was just so quick to say that there's nothing out here for us anymore or as much. And that like the black community is so different, and that and he just started to list off some of the things that we're going to get deeper into. But to me, it's just so interesting. Like, oh, so you just had this on your chest. You was ready to go.
He was ready to spill it out. And he happened to be black, and he was like...
Yeah. So I think it would be cool to just jump into sharing what are some examples of this feud that we see in society.
Yeah. I think for me, I've... heard a few stories about it in the workplace, and my personal opinion in this matter is that I think it affects men more than it does women. I think African women are generally by and large regarded as African queens, whether especially in the black community, like black men love African women. It's like you're the queen, you come from the motherland. But
Mm-hmm.
however, when you're talking about male to male, both the African American side, to me, that's where I see more of the tension. Maybe it's a testosterone thing, I don't know. But
Okay.
in the workplace, for example, I have a friend of mine who works in the finance sector,
Okay.
um, and he's experienced this by and large, where Africans are generally regarded as smarter in the corporate workplace, or even like universities. You hear, oh, there's an African, oh, they're really smart, and
Mm-hmm.
so African Americans sometimes feel threatened by that, or like you're coming to my country to take my opportunity, and if the world already sees Africans as being smarter, and then we know the world over here in America see, you know, blacks to be lazy.
Mm-hmm.
We're seen to be people who complain too much. We always want to blame everybody for everything. Ghetto and those kind of stereotypes that are not entirely true about the black community at all. But that's what society, makes us to be.
Portrays.
So then
Yeah.
you put African, who's regarded as being hardworking, and African American, who's regarded to be lazier. It's like, who do you think is going to be favored in the workplace, kind of
True.
thing, if it comes down to that. Um, and that's one of the examples I've heard, at least in the finance sector, with from a friend of mine who's African. And not to say that I agree with that, but that's an example.
Yeah, I would have to agree too, especially the sort of the points you were saying it just about, being loud or not being as professional or
Yeah,
conservative in the workplace.
yeah,
Um and again, like you were saying, this is not every African American, but
absolutely not. Yeah,
stereotypically, you know what I mean? It just you see those personalities. And
yeah,
then and for others, they just assume all brown people act like that.
yeah,
Why do you think it is so hard to get a job?
yeah,
Um, so I understand both sides, but I think that that has a lot of truth to it for sure. Um, or how like Africans are perceived as always in like the corporate world or having you know more six figure type of professions
yeah. Like
versus
less so like in the blue collar industry, or like service
exactly
jobs. Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
Another example, entertainment. Um,
Yes.
I don't know if you want to touch on this too. Um, but I remember specifically when Get Out came out. Everybody watched it, I'm sure. And the main character, excuse me, Daniel Kaluuya, is Black British. He's actually from Uganda, born and raised in Britain, but his parents are from Uganda. And Samuel Jackson really felt some type of way about him not being American and getting an American role. Um, so much that
So
he,
confusing.
I know, right? It's so much that he mentioned this on Twitter, saying, or he went on some TV show and was just saying, like, why do these Black British people, get um, American roles? Like, it would have been better played by an American. And, Daniel's response to that was, I have to prove to everybody else that I'm Black. I shouldn't have to prove that same point to Black people, too.
Exactly.
And to me, it was just interesting because I specifically remember The Last King of Scotland, where Forrest Whitaker played a Ugandan president.
Right.
And shout outs to Forrest Whitaker. I think you did an amazing job in the movie. But it's just like, at the end of the day, like, they didn't give that role to an African. So it's like, Samuel Jackson, what do you have to say about that? Um, and why are we fighting over this? At the end of the day, to me, I saw there's an amazing Black man who played this role, whether it be American, African, or whatever you are, and they did a
Right.
great job, and the world really did see that. But they weren't like, oh, it was because he was Black British, or it should have been American. They were like, it's just a Black person.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that conversation also was coming up, especially for Black Panther as well. I
right.
was reading articles of, some had opinions saying that there weren't enough people from Africa on in the cast, or
Mm-hmm.
weren't part of like the album, the music album for
Oh
the
yeah.
film.
Okay.
They said it was just like all TBD basically, or just
Yeah.
TD.
TBD.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I I had to laugh. Sorry. um,
But to me, I sorry to cut you off, but I was just like the same thing about the whole Samuel Jackson argument. It's like at the end of the day, is that really relevant? Like
no,
I
right.
think the bigger takeaway is like you see someone who's brown on screen who's able to have the opportunity, you know, to do this film or play this role. But then maybe I'm just being naive or I'm not looking at the the bigger picture. But what were you gonna bring up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, to your point, at the end of the day, right? It's very talented black people play those roles, and they all did an amazing job. And I don't know the politics of it. I don't know if there were more Africans that were talented who were qualified to play the roles. I don't know if the movie company looked into that. I don't know what the selection was, but to me, I saw an American-based film, and they chose top talent based in America to act roles on the film. You know what I mean? And it worked out
Mm-hmm.
pretty perfectly. And not to take sides on the company or anything, but I just think when some of those arguments come up, it was like, well, who was conducting the business at the end of the day? What were they trying to achieve? And I think they really achieved that very well. And then to
Yeah.
the album comment, I thought that's interesting because the album is very much full of South African rappers
Yeah, I
that are
wish
on
I
there.
had written down the. It was on actually Blavity, the article.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, and
Hmm.
was it Blavity? I read too many back to back,
Yeah.
so maybe it wasn't. So I'll definitely put that in the description box. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it was hosted by TDE, but he had like a lot of South African rappers on there because I had to look up the artists. I'd never heard of them, and
Oh,
most of
okay.
them were, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
I just thought it
interesting.
was well balanced and just specific to the film. It really was a diverse mix of multiple African cultures and traditions. It wasn't just
Right,
one.
right,
So to
right.
me, if you're just trying to do a big pot to mix up all the different cultures and whatnot, like to me, it's as good as it gets. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I
yeah,
hear ya. Great movie. I finally
um,
watched it, by the way.
you did. You need. You should have told me this offline. We should
Oh,
talk
you know
about
I had
this.
to like save my embarrassment
Oh my goodness. Oh, I
for
want to know how you
sleeping on it
felt
the
about
first time.
it. Oh, see, the people didn't know that, so you just ratted yourself out. But if what did you think about it? Do you think it was a great representation of both Africans and African Americans, or did you see sort of the undertone, sort of messages happening between the two?
I thought it was a good representation. I thought that I don't know. I had to remember that it was a fantasy movie based on action, but I think that what they were trying to achieve was great. Which is show a great image of the land of the black. You know what I mean? The black men, which I think that narrative is never really shown very well in popular culture. That's usually somewhere in the modern world and not a pleasant place that everybody can relate to. So it was nice that they finally depicted like a home for the black community, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody has like a high respect for that home and that space now.
Yeah.
And even the black community saying things like Wakanda forever. You know what I mean? Like, so I really enjoyed that about the film. I think the acting was really well. I think the graphics were really well, and I think the outfits were really nice too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. So yay for watching it. um, but yeah, I think outside of entertainment, sort of the biggest environment, sort of say that I personally have been able to see, the two differences
Yeah.
in the cultures is definitely in education. Education
Ooh,
in
okay.
school.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a good one.
yeah, I think when I was talking to my mom about it not too long ago, she made the good point of, and this is how we were raised, of education is everything, is number one. If you're not educated, you know what I mean, it's just you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And for us, me speaking um as a Haitian American and from the Caribbean islands versus speaking for Africans or Africa, We
Yeah.
do have similarities, but I'm not trying to say like all Africans are like this. But so yeah, because we're raised as education as the number one priority for us, that's the bare minimum. And coming to America and seeing that that's not the bare minimum or as enforced here in the U.S., especially within the Black community, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that others do look at as in like, well, you're not truly taking advantage of trying to be better or like learning the system or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Um, it's almost as like my personal experiences, as a kid when I was younger, of because of the way I talk and because of my passion for education, I was an Oreo or I was quote unquote white versus just being
Yeah.
educated. And I think those are some of the differences of how the two communities look at that. And
Yeah.
I think it's a sort of a stem of where like the superiority or the sense of being better, even though that's not right. Um, but I think that's really where I see the feud. It's like a little home base. um, but
Yeah, to add on to that point too, I think you
yeah,
bring up a really good point with education. And what I was thinking about what you were talking, while you were talking, excuse me, is I think it just fundamentally comes back down to like cultural values and cultural values that are instilled on each side. I think at least from where I come from, um, which is Zimbabwe, like education is a huge part of the culture.
mm-hmm,
Um, and it's not an if buts or maybe, it's a must. And not only that, like both Zimbabwean moms are going to tell you what you're going to become because they have an idea of the image of they want to keep within the family, right? They want to be mom of a doctor, they want to be mom of a lawyer, they want to be mom of a engineer. A little biased on that, but it's like those that's how high they're ranking in terms of like expectations for their kids' careers. It's
mm-hmm,
not, oh, sweetie, it's okay. You can do whatever you want. No, you're going to become a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer.
yeah,
So I don't see that as much in the African American community. And I'm not saying that Africans are better because of that. But again, they just come from very different views on education. And then
mm-hmm,
here, in America, there's so many more ways you can get an education. And you don't have to become a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer to become something, you know?
right,
And I feel like I come from a place where the resources of getting education are very limited and they're very, very traditional. You have to go to a brick and mortar school.
right,
Um, there's really, rarely any online opportunities or any trade schools or things like that. It's like go to, grade school, you go to high school, you go to college or university, you would call it. There's no like community college or things like that. So, um, but yeah, I was just thinking about that while you're saying. I think it just fundamentally just boils down to what each of the cultures really truly believe in and what they instill in each of the cultures. And I think African community like lives off of education. It's very important.
right,
And I'm not saying that it's not important in African American community. I just think that it's instilled a little bit differently.
right. Yeah, and when I was at Sac State, they have a program called the Cooper Woodson College Enhancement Program, and basically it helps students of color make it all the way through college and graduating, from
Okay.
from coming in as a freshman all the way to as a senior.
Yeah.
And in that group, it was mostly Africans, um, but it was a little diverse group of all of us with different cultural backgrounds. And there were multiple times I
Yeah.
did bring up this conversation because you could feel it, you could see it, I feel like it's just like almost like a bad taste in the mouth sometimes when African American walks in the room or says something ignorant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They might not know or be well informed, but at least they're trying type of thing. So I just
Yeah.
always ask, like, where does this anger come from? What's going on? And I feel like
Yeah.
what constantly comes up is outside of the point of education as well, but like Africans leave extreme poverty and other challenges in their country to come here for a better opportunity
Right.
to, while African Americans already live here and have those same opportunities, but are not progressing in the same um, amount of speed or time as others who come from elsewhere and starting all over.
Yeah.
And this is sort of what Chaz and I were talking offline that he recently brought up, is that even though that may be true, the thing that African Americans feel like Africans aren't understanding, the system is built for them to fail. So even, and it's like, it's not only a system built for failure, but this has been ingrained over the generations. So
By
it's
that you
not
mean
something
for black,
that,
by
go
by
ahead, what do
failure
you
you
mean?
mean it's meant for black people to fail.
Yeah, for black, yes,
Okay. Okay.
black people to fail. And I guess the feud comes from for Africans not necessarily appreciating, but fully accepting and understanding all that
Okay.
African Americans fought for and have been able to accomplish up to this day,
Right.
because it's been like a long journey. So it's just like, I don't know how to explain. It's like I understand both sides, but there's still this, at the end of the day, yes, the system is built for us to fail, but then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep telling us how it's built for failure? Or are you going to try to do your own thing, beat the odds, keep pushing, not give up? Like, I feel like on both ends, Africans and African Americans, a commonality that we all have is just the strength and
Okay.
ambition and endurance to work through things.
Right.
And to
Work
me,
through
it's like,
things.
yeah, work hard and keep pushing. Like, yeah, they don't love us, they don't care about us, they steal our ideas, that whatever, all this stuff that does happen, but we keep pushing through. We're still here. So if we know how to
Yeah.
still survive, okay, so now what? It is unfair. Now what? They've been killing black people on the streets. Now what? So
Yeah.
I think
And you.
even the conversation about like marching and things like that, or rioting, um, and just seeing how, like, at least, for my mom, I was talking to my mom about it. She's like, oh yeah, I've never protested or anything like that, in the
Mhm.
U.S.
Mhm.
Um, and just not really understanding the purpose of it or the importance of it or what the outcomes of marching does. Because at the end of the day, her mindset is, well, I'm gonna just keep working. I'm gonna keep doing me, like, with
Right.
all these injustices.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know how that could be fixed or like that, but sort of what you were mentioning as the end goal of this conversation is really saying, like, hey, we do have our differences. We're
Right. And
still
we
on
always
the,
will.
yeah, we always will. This will never change. um, and that, I guess, there's the African Americans are always going to strive to finding their roots and background, even though Africans
Yeah.
already have that. So it's
Yeah.
like, how about we just help each other through that journey? If it's as simple as finding out where home is, or making our home of ourselves, let's do that together. Let's work on that. Um,
Yeah. I think you brought up some really good points. By the way, bravo.
Thanks.
I was trying to clap for you. I don't know if you heard it.
It was a fan
Um,
clap. I got it. I got
you
it.
got it. um, but yeah, I think to add on to what you said at the end, like there will always be differences, and I feel like what I've learned too from learning about the two different sides, what each one thinks is just it's really just a big disagreement because both sides come from different places, different worlds with different cultural values by and large.
hmm
Um, and to me, it's kind of like you don't have like you should we should all try to get along, right? You don't
hmm
have to understand where the other person comes from if you can't or don't want to. But at the very least, you should accept that they do exist in your community because they're the same skin color as you.
hmm
And that the outside world will treat them just the same as you. You're no better than them and they're no better than you. Wherever you come from, right?
hmm
And I think if we focus on that, then it'll be a much better outcome. Um, and then another thing too I wanted to add was Um, I think this conversation is even worse for kids like me who born in another country, an African country, came to America at a very young age, right? I've been in America more than I've been in my own home country.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, of course, I accepted the American culture and I became American. Like, that's where I live. I step outside the house, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
then when I'm talking to my cousins or my family and I'm doing things, I'm not regarded very much as Zimbabwean anymore. I'm American.
Mm.
Um, and I feel like most of the time when it comes out, it's more like, oh, you don't do this anymore. You must be American. Kind of like out of spite a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I experienced this like very recently when I went to Coachella. I was when we pulled up to a hotel. We're staying at the Renaissance in Palm Springs, and there's this guy who's wearing a shirt that said "Proudly African." So then I walked by him and I was like, "Oh, hey, proudly African. Where are you from?" And then he said he's from South Africa. I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. I'm from Zimbabwe." So he was standing by the curb waiting for like a cab or something, and then his friend comes out of nowhere from behind him, and overhears me say that I'm from Zimbabwe. And immediately he's like, "Well, you don't sound Zimbabwean."
Yeah,
And I was
so.
like, "Right." And I was just like,
And
"So I have to sound like I'm from there in order to qualify as being from there?" Like that makes no that logic makes no fucking sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and I think that happens a lot in, so like bulk, people who are bicultural or who have lived here but they come from somewhere else. It's like, does your own family start to see you as not being part of the culture because you've assumed the American culture or the African, community itself, And I've had like Nigerian friends say the same thing. They're like, "Oh, you're not Zimbabwean. You're so American." It's like, what qualifies me as African? What qualifies me as American?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I think that sort of dips back into our self-identity episode, and I feel when hearing you talk about it, in reality, I feel like it's as simple as how much of your country's culture that you've kept.
Right.
Like, obviously everyone else is going to have a different gauge of what makes you more or less African or American,
Yeah.
but I feel like at the end of the day, you can't you can't let go of facts. Like, you were literally born in Zimbabwe. So it
Right.
doesn't
My
matter.
birth certificate.
Right. So it doesn't matter what anyone says.
Right.
They'll
The
just
fact of
sound
the matter is,
ignorant,
I
you
speak the
know?
language. I talk to my Zimbabwean family all the time.
Yeah, like my mom birthed me in Zimbabwe, so I am
Right.
Zimbabwean. And if you don't
And I can't change
understand
that. I'm
that,
sorry.
yeah, sorry.
My whole family is not American. Only like half.
Yeah. And then the same thing, sort of goes when I was mentioning when my parents come to the US, like my
Yeah.
dad isn't necessarily seen as quote unquote Haitian because when he came here he was 7. So he grew up as an American or learning the Americanisms in
Culture. Yeah.
surviving, yeah,
Yeah.
surviving the culture. So
Yeah.
his viewpoints are a lot different
Yeah.
than most Haitians. But
Yeah.
does that make him not Haitian? No. That just makes him a Haitian that yeah, that you know, grew up here.
Yeah. Yeah. That one always, I think, irks me, and maybe next time someone says to me, I'll have the time to actually ask, like, okay, so what qualifies me as one or the other, and why are you saying that? Is that to make you feel better about yourself or feel more superior because you feel like you're more African than me? Like, what does that
Right.
even mean? um
Mind you, we're both at Coachella, so what are you
right.
really
You
saying
know what I
here,
mean?
sir?
Yeah. And
Um
I'm sorry I'm not fresh off the plane from Zimbabwe.
right.
Anyways, yeah, that always
But
pisses
yeah.
me off by far. um
But yeah, I
yeah.
think we could take a quick break and wrap
Okay.
up the convo when we get back. But I think we made some good ground.
Yeah, we
Good
did.
ground on solving the issue? No, but at least communicating and sharing a different perspective on both spectrums.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by Indie Things Possible, where independent doesn't mean alone. ITP is a nonprofit who assists independent entertainers and entrepreneurs by providing digital and hands-on professional development, as well as connecting them to business, professional, and community resources to succeed and achieve their career goals. Check out more information on our Facebook and Instagram page, Indie Things Possible, INDIETHINGS POSSIBLE. Again, Indie Things Possible, where independent doesn't mean alone. And we are back, y'all.
Yes.
Yes. So we're talking all things within the African American and African studies discussion.
Those two beautiful communities.
Correct.
And that I love with all my heart.
All the love, y'all.
Oh my God, yes.
But yeah, I thought it would be great to sort of close the conversation with some of the key cultural differences or misconceptions that come from the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, where would you like to start off at?
The first thing I thought about is just the basic fact that Africans generally know where they come from, right? Geographically, where their family roots are in their respective countries, whereas I think Americans are still trying to figure that out, at least per family. And some people know, some people don't, right? Mm-hmm. So they come from two distinct places. And I always generally feel like Africans feel some type of way, not some type of way, feel sometimes superior because they feel like they know where they come from, so they could be better. But at the end of the day, again, I think in a country like America, that does not matter in any regard. We are all Black, whether you're from Britain, you're from Jamaica, you're from Ghana, or you're from Philadelphia, or you know what I mean, wherever you're from, we're all still very much Black, and the system is purely built that none of us succeed, no matter where we come from. And the more time we spend trying to say, well, I'm from Africa, I know where I'm from, and you don't know what you're talking about because you're Black American, it's like we're taking away that time and energy that could be put into, building a better community for ourselves and trying to work together to be successful and build generation of success and of, a wealth of success, So those are my closing remarks on the matter.
Okay. I think another misconception that we haven't really brought up or focused on was just the sense of family and what the household looks like. I think with Africans or other immigrants, family is very important, very traditional, having the traditional roles played, with the mom and the women in the home, and, the men providing for the family and whatnot. I think, again, going along with the point you're making with knowing who they are, where they come from, and sort of their cultural background, African Americans are perceived as not respecting the family roles or traditional outlook on them. Always stereotypical, oh, if you're Black, you probably don't know who your father is or have ever seen him or barely get to see him, or he's just not part of that. Which in some cases, yes, that is true, but I think that's very valid in all cultures. My dad doesn't know his dad. You know what I mean? He left very soon,
right.
So.
That's fair. That's valid in whether you're African or you're Black or you're
Yeah. So although that's it could be looked at as misconception, but I think it's just facts everywhere, and regardless of where you are and where you come from. And I think it's just a bigger conversation on the male role, versus the cultural background and what communities embrace that role. Other things too we sort of touched on this too, and just how they spend money, and of how African Americans just focus on materialistic items and don't really focus on generational wealth. It's easy, Africans come to invest, grow capital, and bring it back home
to their countries, right?
To their countries, versus African Americans, already got shoes, clothes, and cars that they need, but that's that doesn't really
You're
help them
still
in the
renting an
future.
apartment.
You're still renting an apartment if that. Um, and still living paycheck to paycheck or depending on government support and whatnot. So
Right.
yes, these
And
are things
again,
that go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yes, these things do happen in the Black community, but that's not every Black person. And there are Black people who are African American, who are educated, who are investing in, in their wealth and, generational wealth and whatnot. We just don't see that in social media, in the media as much. That's not portrayed. What's portrayed is a world star and, all these reality shows and stuff.
Right. Like, where y'all find these Black people from? Because I don't have those people in my family. You know what I'm saying? We all went to college, so I don't know where y'all find them from.
Right.
But yeah, those are good points. Yeah, I think it's a point we probably should have added more in the whole conversation too, is how the media affects this conversation by and large too. Like,
Yeah.
when you ask an African person what they think an American is like, especially a Black one, they're gonna tell you exactly the one they see on TV.
Exactly.
Right.
Or like stereotypical in the hood, or you know what I mean? And I think
right,
that
because that's what
yeah, sorry. I
I
think
was gonna
that's
say,
just
because that's what's. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's where a lot of our upbringing came from, in fear of not looking like the stereotypical Black person. Like my
Right.
parents made sure, like, Sebastian, never sag your pants, or
Mine too.
don't listen to all this rap music, or what I
Right.
mean?
You're gonna pollute your mind. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good point you bring. That was definitely my mom's point too, for sure, and my dad too. Just like, you're not gonna be a stereotype.
right. And I get
Yeah.
why, obviously, because we're mistreated and people assume that we're all like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's where sort of the sense of the better than type of attitude comes from.
Right.
From Africans versus African Americans. It's just like immigrants or Africans know how to be polite and have manners in any environment. They're not going to get loud or anything unless it gets to that point. You know what I mean? They're not going to be the ones
Right.
to start this stuff. Is this true
Right.
for all Africans or immigrants? No, it's not. But overwhelmingly, it just seems like the generic population. It's just that
Yeah.
they're more adaptable to the American culture and just understanding that this is the system and this is how it works. So I'm just going to play the game and get what I can out of it and move forward.
Yeah.
Versus African Americans being stuck on highlighting how unfair it is and how,
Yeah.
how it's ruining our people in our community, which is
Yeah.
still valid and true. So I think at the end of the day, we're shining light to this conversation to show that a lot of both points that are made from each side might have some truth to it. But I think at the end of the day, Africans or immigrants need to acknowledge and understand the work and efforts that have been done by African Americans,
Mm-hmm.
as well as, them still on the journey of finding who they are and what home looks like. And African Americans, just in the same way, need to accept that we do live in a system where it is unfair and it is built for us to fail.
Yeah.
So how are we going to move forward?
Yeah. I think last thing I'll add to is for both sides. For African Americans, I would say, if you're African American and you don't like Africans, just think about how your life would be like if you had to move to an African country from America. How would you act? How would you want to be treated? How would you want people to accept you or not accept you? And then for the African side, I would definitely say, yes, there are a lot of ignorant Americans out there, but I think a lot of it just comes from lack of education. You know what I mean? Maybe if you do have a chance, maybe try to teach them about where you're from. When I was living in Zimbabwe, I didn't know Mexico existed. We never taught about Mexico. It wouldn't have been right for me to hate Mexicans. But if I had learned about Mexico, you know what I'm saying, beforehand, I would have known a lot more. So maybe just taking a little bit more time just to teach people sometimes about where you're from in a very positive manner and encourage them to go visit or to learn more about it so they can have a deeper understanding of where you're from, and maybe that will make things a little bit easier for you.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Well said. So, yes.
Thank you.
Ending the conversation, let's continue to empower, elevate, respect each other. And
put some respect on that.
Put some respect on it, y'all. But yeah, you know, we'll see what the future entails. But yes, that is our conversation on Africans and African Americans. We definitely would love to open the conversation to others and hear different perspectives, of course.
And experiences. We love stories.
Yes, we love the stories, y'all. So please let us know. But yes, that is that. Now we will be jumping into our share circle.
So for today, I really don't have much to share except it is American basketball playoff season. For those of you guys who are American basketball fans, I do have a cousin I have to shout out. Kudakwashe, who lives in Zim. He is a LeBron diehard fan.
Yes.
This boy probably watches these games at like 2-4 in the morning.
Yes,
every single one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, the Cavs are playing the Warriors. If you're not familiar, let me say it more simpler. Where are the Cavs from again? I just forgot. Cleveland. The Cleveland Cavaliers are playing the Golden State Warriors, aka the Oakland Warriors, in the final championship series of the NBA. I just want to tell everyone, if you're not a basketball fan, it is completely fine to become a bandwagon fan. That's what I do every year.
Boo.
Just because the Warriors are very local to me and they are playing. So just to support, I become a bandwagon fan at the end. So to all the bandwagoners out there, let's go watch those games. And to all the fans, let's go watch the games.
Yeah,
that's my share for the week.
I feel like I've become more and more. I'm a LeBron fan, not only because of Chaz, but because just look at this man. He has the whole team on his back. Okay. Everyone keeps saying he's not good enough, or this and that, or he could have done this better, and he comes back every time even more great than he was before. So it's just like, what more do you have to say about this man?
What? I'm so surprised. You come from the Bay and you're supporting LeBron? Oh, wow.
Sorry. I mean, yay, go Warriors, but I just feel like...
Y'all, be a bandwagoner, but please don't be a traitor.
So what's the difference? Because when you bandwagoning on something, isn't it you're
leaving
not a
traitor.
Some,
you pick
fake
one
leaving?
team to bandwagon.
Oh, so there's rules now. But anyway, I did want to shout out the Warriors coach. When he made when he publicly responded about the NFL reacting to the national anthem and finding players
kneeling during the national anthem.
Correct. And he did a beautiful little spiel on just how, no, y'all, that's just a distraction, a way to divide us. First off, the national anthem is propaganda within itself to enlist people in the army and whatnot. So, anywho, if you guys are mad about people utilizing their professional platform on making a difference, like, what? Anywho, I'm not going to jump into that. But I just did want to shout the coach out because, yes, I almost was starting to root for the Warriors too. Like, you know what? And they got a coach with a, a head on his shoulders.
You are trading bandwagoner.
No, I'm not. I never did it though, because I'm still
almost started rooting for. You just said you're LeBron. I can't.
Anywho,
you have to pick one side. LeBron wouldn't agree to this, and Steph Curry would be like.
First off, I'm still all about LeBron. All I'm saying is good shout out to the Warrior coach, who happens to be white and still understand why people are kneeling at the national anthem. It has nothing to do about the flag, y'all. Anyway, we're going to move on from Retizzo's shade on the other line.
And Mariah's trading tendencies.
Anywho. Excuse me. But yes, my share this week is is what's my share? My share this week is about this mixer I was able to go on this last Thursday. I think I shouted it out a couple episodes ago, but it was a networking social mixer. And it was hosted by a lot of vendors, Heirs of Threads, WDB, My Urban Society, and a couple others. But it was an amazing event where Black professionals or professionals in business or growing their own business or part of someone else's business all attended. And it was just okay, I'll give a little backstory. I've always wished for an event where it's not a party. You don't have to dance or nothing like that, but it's where other Black people can mix and mingle and just, learn about what they do and this and that. And that's exactly what that was. So it was really refreshing to attend an event like that. Apparently that was their third one. They're definitely going to keep doing it and having more. So those of you who are in the Sacramento area or happen, to like to go to Sacramento throughout the week and weekends, come out and find this event. It's Black in Business. They're having a brunch actually this weekend, this Sunday. But when you all hear this, it'll be too late. I'm going to try to see. I just have a lot of work to do. So we'll see. But yes, those of you who are Black in business, Black professionals in any realm of work, please hit us up because we definitely love to hear about it. We want to share and share to our peoples,
Okay.
Yes.
I hear that.
Hi. But yes, that is my share this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and the conversation.
Yes.
We definitely want to hear from y'all soon.
Like tomorrow.
But yes, y'all, I hope you have a great day.
All right, y'all, we're out.
Bye. Thank you.